Hello, everyone. I am Jacqueline Sawyer, the VP of Education and Engagement here at the National Building Museum, the country's foremost institution dedicated to telling the stories about and inspiring curiosity in our built world, the places where we all work, play, and live. For over 4 decades, we've presented celebrated exhibitions and programs that have touched on everything from design and construction to advances in sustainability to social justice and equity issues. This program is no exception. Equity in the built environment focuses on how buildings, landscapes, interiors, and streets can be the cause of, and more importantly, offer solutions for social justice and racial disparities. I want to thank Studios Architecture and AirUp for their generous support of equity in the built environment, making it free for all attendees. If you enjoy what you see in this program, please consider becoming a member. You will get early access and discounts to other museum programs and events. If you are already a member, thank you for your support. It directly impacts our ability to create and offer world-class programs and exhibitions. Please visit our website, nbm.org, for more details. Now it is my pleasure to welcome our program guests. Shelley Halstead is the founder of Black Women Build Baltimore, a home ownership and wealth building initiative that trains Black women in carpentry, electrical, and plumbing by restoring vacant and deteriorated houses in West Baltimore. Once complete, participants have the opportunity to buy the homes that they have worked on at an affordable price, as well as enter a trades-related field if they desire. Chanelle Austin holds a Bachelor's of Science in Food Service Management with a concentration in sustainability. After a career in the hospitality industry, she enrolled in a year-long farmer apprenticeship, where she was introduced to carpentry. She discovered Black Women Build Baltimore, and the program aligned with her personal values of community, home ownership, building generational wealth. As a participant in the program, Chanelle had the opportunity to work directly with Shelley, learn new skills like plumbing and electrical work, and complete 3 homes. After we hear from Shelley, I will moderate a conversation between them both. To our audience, please feel free to submit any questions you have for Shelley or Chanelle in the Q&A function. We will answer as many of them as we can. So without further ado, please welcome Shelley Halstead.
Hello, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share the work that we're doing. I'm going to share a video. Actually, it's not a video, it's a PowerPoint. And I'm going to share that with you to help you guys visualize the kind of work that we're doing and the people that we're working with. So Black Women Build Baltimore, we are a home ownership and wealth building initiative that trains Black women in carpentry, electrical, and plumbing. And we do that by restoring vacant and deteriorated houses in West Baltimore. We incorporated in 2017, but we didn't get our first houses until August 2019. And you can see right here that now we've created a little development cluster. And we have finished 7 houses so far in this first cluster on Edding Street. And we've moved down to the bottom of the screen where there's 3 more houses on Lawrence. And then we have also moved up to Division Street where we now have 8 houses. This is Edding Street. These were the first houses that we began on. And the striped lot is going to be a community resource center. So that we're still waiting for the city to consolidate those lots, and then we'll put that there and have a garden there. Hopefully Chanelle works on that. So this is the street that we started on, the street that I saw that I felt like had a lot of potential. These are 2-story houses, as you can see, but they were, for me, it was these are something that were doable in that these are 2-story houses, so we can make 2-bedroom, 1 bath. These are great first homes for people. It's a nice quiet block, especially when there's no one living on it except one person. But anyway, and the city wanted to demolish them. And so this is the cohort that we started with, right? This is actually our second cohort. Our first cohort was 1 person. And I knew that we just had to do 1 house to prove that it could be done. And again, this is the side that we started on, Edding Street. And this is the condition in which we got these houses. And we bought these from the city. We bought 4 of them for $5,000. And we got one of them cost $2,000 because it had a roof on it. But this is what I saw. And I knew that we could rehab them instead of demolish them, right? If you've been to Baltimore, you know that there are just thousands of vacants. A lot of them are not city owned, unfortunately, because when they're privately owned, it's really more difficult to get them out of private owners' hands, if you can even find the owner, right? So these houses, this one had a tree growing out the back. And once we took the tree, we took the building around the tree, we took that down. We had to shore up the side because there wasn't much left. As you can see on the right side, there wasn't much left holding it together. There's no back, there's no roof. The front facade is really the only thing that was stable. And these are the houses next to it. And so we like to build in clusters so that we can build the foundation of the house, right? And they have the support of each other. It's really difficult to stabilize these properties when you have a vacant house and then a house that we're rehabbing and a vacant house. It's difficult just for the health of the house, but it's also difficult because people want to live around other people. And so it's difficult to sell a house that has no neighbors. We do CHAP with all of our houses, which is, the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. So because these houses, they're so degraded, there's nothing inside, there's nothing that we need to keep intact on the interiors. And so for us, it's a matter of replacing the windows and the doors, wooden windows, usually 1/1, a wooden door, 4 or 6 panel with a transom. And then we repair the cornices. And of course, we keep as much original material as we can. This is Chanelle and Brianna. And on these houses, we did a lot of the electrical, and that took a very long time. And so now we have other folks doing it, because we really actually want to give everyone a taste of the work. And this was a full mill. So the electrical was done. They're putting up the can lights. We did the block infill as well. And we're also doing, the decking. Or here I am grinding, making the window. They had done some weird facade work. So here we are grinding. And the framing was done by others. But we're really, really trying to demystify how the house is put together. People, first-time homeowners, and actually people who own multiple homes are unsure or scared of what's behind the walls. And we're really trying to demystify that and help people understand how it's put together in order to better take care of the house. So the backs of these, we put cantilevers on these, so that there's a small deck on the back as well. These houses on Edding used to not have that cantilever. And the city came through, I think in the 50s or 60s, and everybody had to put a bathroom on the back of their houses. And so that's why you see on the backs of the houses, this is one of the finished products, right? Another interior. There you go. And everybody's doing the work on these houses. So we're doing the floors, the doors, the trim, the tile. You saw the decking, and really, really trying to put these back together. And here you go. Here's the cantilever. So that used to be the bathroom in all these houses, if there was even anything left. But you see, this is what it can become, right? This is the vision of what we can do when we're working together, right? And you know, it's very difficult to build these. If you're a for-profit developer, we cannot sell these for the price that we put in, the cost of it. This is the side that's now held together by stars and love. I'm joking. So the stars are actually, you see these a lot in Baltimore. They're architectural stars, and they're holding a course of brick. It's usually about 8 bricks around, but it's holding that, and it's driven back into the joists, right? And so because this wall was so compromised, and we had braced it, this is why there's so many stars there. So these are the houses as they sit now. As you can see, they've been repointed. Some of the brick we tried to replace that. The cornices are done. And because we've done CHAP, the taxes on these houses are $9.33 a year. And that is something that is phenomenal in Baltimore City. And so on the right is the crew that we worked with to get these houses done. And those took about 6 months to finish. The women worked with us for 4 months, but there's a bit of finish work to do. That was super overachieving to get those done in that time frame with the amount of work that we were doing. But I think we've streamlined the process a little better. We started a new cohort in April, so at the beginning of this month, and they're working on these 3 houses. And this again is what we start with, is this. And so our guys come in and they do the demo and the stabilization, and that's the floors, the floor joists, the decking, and the roof, and then they do the interior framing. Once all the HVAC and plumbing and MEP goes in, then the sheetrock comes in, and this is our new cohort. We're already painting, so that's super exciting. Well, they're priming, and so they really get a taste of what this looks like before they even start. Right? They're going to choose their floors. They're going to choose their tile. They get to work together and create community out of this, right? So the idea is to work together, get to know each other, and start to build community with whom you work and where you live. The backs of these were completely blown out, and now these are restuccoed, and of course will be cleaned up before they're sold to the participants. Up the block, we have in the 2100 block of division, we have 8 houses there, and this is pretty much the row of those houses. These are a little bigger, 2 stories, and we've also dipped our toe into some 3-story houses. And this again is what we're looking at. They're covered in trees, they're covered in vines. We have trees growing out of them. Again, the backs are completely compromised. That's a really poor picture, but that's what you get when the tree is taken down. You get to see what's actually inside. And this is what they look like now. We have 3 of those done. As you can see, and we don't own the one that's next to the single with the green board on it. And that is a problem, because that house has no roof, and it will be leaking into the foundations of these other houses. We will waterproof, of course, but that's the problem. It's a private owner who's owned this house since 2008, and they haven't done anything with it. And this is it. This is what we can do when we're working together. We can really rebuild these neighborhoods and help Black women become homeowners and start building intergenerational wealth through this home ownership. So if you want more information, you should check out our website, and you can find it there. And yeah, I think you should check us out. So that's us. And Chanelle was a participant of ours, and she bought her home, and it was really, really exciting to see this come to fruition. She really went out and did the thing, right? Like, that was something that we look for. We look for engagement, and And so Chanelle was super engaged, and Chanelle's a gardener, and we want people to grow beautiful things here. And I can't wait for her to do that. So I don't know, Chanelle, you want to tell me, you want to tell them what it was really like?
It was definitely fun. It was engaging. It was challenging because it was something. It's it was something that I was described how it could be and what the process was, but it was definitely challenging every day because I didn't know about all the tools and just the conditions of things because we went where it was during COVID and just also just working with other people that was also a challenge and just learning our working styles and it was just different.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for that presentation, Shelley. And as a resident of West Baltimore, the work that you guys are doing means particularly great things to me. I have a couple of questions to kind of start off our conversation. So many people may not know this about Baltimore, but it is a city of neighborhoods. Baltimore has over 200 distinct neighborhoods. And the neighborhood associations are quite powerful in their communities. And I wanted to know, what is the reaction that you guys have gotten from neighborhood associations as well as Baltimore city government around the work that you're doing?
In the beginning, no, I had moved to Baltimore from DC. I was in DC for a year, but I'd moved to Baltimore from the West Coast. And and so no one knew me. And so I, came to town with so many people that have dreams of rebuilding Baltimore. And and nobody believed me. And so that was really difficult to get a toehold in. They were going to demolish this block, and I was really adamant about trying to save it, and I didn't really have any support for that from different neighborhood associations. I finally did get to the commissioner at the time, and and again they kind of split the baby and said, well, we're going to demolish half the block, and we'll sell her the other half and see, right? And 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 so proving oneself was really, really important. Um, and it's still important because neighborhood associations are really powerful in Baltimore. The city, it seems like how they work is they get input, right? And you want input from the community. And so neighborhood associations have that input, but the question is, who is the community, and if they're really reaching out to all the community members in order to say yay or nay to something, or to, so it's difficult. But now some of them like the work more than they did.
I mean, I had I guess, a brief interaction with the neighborhood associations because in my mother's, I live with my mother briefly, and I had a green space that we have adopt a lot here. So the city allows you to adopt green spaces that are vacant, and it's usually free. So I would go to my neighborhood association meetings, and basically it was hard to get things done. Like if you're not really associated with anyone and you're just a person, my experience, just a person trying to do something in the neighborhood and the community doesn't know you.
Yeah. So we have a question from Terry Winston, and she would like to know, how are women recruited for your cohorts?
We have a program manager, Tanika Garibaldi, and she does outreach for us. Mostly it was through word of mouth and the website, right? So there's an application on the website that people apply through, and then that pings our program manager. And one of the things is the requirements are that you live in Baltimore City, you're 20 years old, you haven't owned a house before, you have a credit score of 640 or above, and what's the other thing? $2,500 in savings. So we want to train women in construction skills, right? We want to demystify these things, but we also really need our participants to be able to buy the house, because that's how those monies go back into our coffers in order to do more work, right? So part of the process is to help people get to the point where they are able to buy the house, and that we know that they will be able to buy the house when they begin the program. And so there's definitely fine tuning that we keep doing around that, because we're a new organization. This is all, I mean, in some ways, this is just really, it's just a vision, and we're really trying to figure out how to make it work and how to make it work well. And so we're constantly fine tuning it. So word of mouth and just getting out there and talking to folks.
Great. Dick Williams would like to know, what are the ceiling heights in the Edding Street homes?
They are 8'9". Well, and then some of them, well, so the roof is sloped. You know, it's a flat roof, but it has a small pitch. So it's going to be about 9 foot to 8'9", 8'6", somewhere around there. They're over 8 feet, as evidenced by the waste of sheetrock that when they hang it. Mm-hmm.
So you said that once a participant buys the home from Black Women Build Baltimore, then that is a funding source and kind of puts money back into your coffers. Are there any other funding sources that come into your program?
Yes. City and state, Department of Housing and Community Development, we've gotten some of their grants. We've, you know, some of our participants have received home ownership, or sorry, down payment assistance through the Able Foundation, and through some, you know, and then also some donations. And so we're able to do some seller contributions through that. We've had a couple larger donations. Guinness actually did a collaboration beer called High Viz Cream Ale. Actually, I can't remember the name now, but it was great. Anyway, so they did that. You know, I mean, it's a lot of individual donations, to be quite honest, but our steady is the state and the city. Mm-hmm.
Great.
We just got we did get a JP Morgan Chase. I should say that they did an Advancing Cities call. And so Baltimore won one of those spots, and it's $5 million over 3 years, and it's split between several organizations, and one of those organizations is ours, and that is for operating, and that's for training. And I was able to hire a couple carpenters. That's super helpful for me. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Terry would like to know, are there specific mortgage lenders that are supporting the work that you're doing, or is it just kind of who you work with?
We like Fulton Bank, and we like Bank of America, and we've used US Mortgage, and we have lenders that are really, that we want to work with lenders that understand what we're doing, right? So I'm sure most lenders could do this, but we really want to work with lenders that support our work, that believe in the work that we're doing. We work with lenders who understand the programs, right? So like the grant programs, Vacants to Value, or Community Development Block Grant, or, you know, Live Baltimore or Able Foundation, like all, like we don't want it's a lot, right, to go through this process. And so we want to support people who support us. You know, Bank of America was very generous as well with the grant that we received. So, you know, they support us, we want to support them.
Absolutely. Chanelle, this question is for you. How has the experience working with Shelley building these homes all the way to home ownership. How has that affected your life?
I mean, in a positive way, it definitely affected me. I have my own home. Just the rent in Baltimore and just the high cost of things. I can't imagine being able to live by myself right now. Um, just just in what I earn. So it definitely has been helpful in that. Working with Shelley and working just with all the women was was difficult because also I had to maintain my job and then also do the program as well. That was like a requirement. So it was like working two jobs. So it was good, but also I learned a lot, and I feel like there's some things that I can take from the program and just my interest of like gardening and things and translate that and to what I want to do, and especially just helping the community and just living in this community. I feel like because I will know most of the people that live here, it it's kind of it's it's empowering. So that also changed my life because I wanted to always live somewhere where I kind of know my neighbors. I can knock on someone's door and have that sense of community. So it definitely is a sense of community that I want.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Can I say something?
Oh, sure.
Well, we had been talking about at one point just about, you know, the cost of living in Baltimore and the rents, and that these mortgages are all lower than a rent that you would pay, right?
Mhm.
And so talking about, you know, not only being able to afford the place and like it's yours, it's a mortgage, it's equity, you're going in with equity. But like what that does to free up that space, like that, again, that mind space about what you want to do, right? Like if you're constantly trying to make ends meet and constantly trying to pay rent, pay bills, and then we've just lopped off like $600 a month from that, right? Like what that does to free up the space for what you want to do, or do you want to start a hobby, or do you want to start a different job? You know, do you want to be an urban farmer, and what can you do with that extra time or that extra money, right? And that's part of the thinking around it, right, is to make something, to make truly affordable housing, um, so that should you wish, you can do something else. And if you don't want to do something else, that's fine too. But you're not tied to the house in the same way. And I think that's
Mhm.
super important.
Absolutely. I mean, I would add, I think, adding home ownership and home restoration into the communities that you're working in also adds value and wealth to those communities, building, compounding upon the individual wealth and building communal wealth.
Mhm.
Shelley, this question is for you. How does the Baltimore tradition of ground rent help or hinder the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a weird thing, ground rent. Um, we haven't run into a lot of it. There's actually the houses that we've bought from the city that had ground rent, it's really, you can't find those people, right? So it's one of those things where if we could have bought it, we would have bought it with,
Can
you know.
I just want to pause you real quickly for anybody who does not know what ground rent is. Ground rent is the practice of the land a home being built on being owned by a different owner than the person who owns the home. And thus the land is being rented by the home owner. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's, you know, and it's like $30 every 6 months, or like, you know, $100 a year. And it's something that has to be paid. And if it's not paid over X amount of time, then they can take your house. And it's yeah, it hasn't hindered us thus far. Um, you know, but again, it's something that, you know, if it's there, we're going to buy it. I mean, there's also like a formula that's used, And I shouldn't say it's not expensive because it's a few $1,000s more, which makes a difference when you're a nonprofit or when you're buying your house. But to consolidate that and own, I want to own the ground, right? I want to own everything that I live in. I don't want it taken from me. Yes, it can be redeemed during closing process. Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I had my own ground rent journey when I bought my home too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some questions about sustainability and kind of how that, what role that plays in the work that you do and in the restoration of these homes. How do you consider sustainability and sustainable building practices?
Well, what I've heard is to not knock down a building is one of the most sustainable things you can do. So that's what we're not doing. We are not knocking down buildings. It's really expensive for us to use, I would say, reclaimed materials. We haven't done, I've looked into, like solar panels, expensive. I don't, I guess we could use Trex for the deck, so no, I don't. The sustainability aspect, I mean, I would need some help in how we would be able to do that. I took a class on um wow, I'm totally blanking. Passive house, sorry. Took a passive house class and I was like, we would never be able to get these done.
Mm-hmm.
It would take so much time and so much more money for us to do this. And so, we might, we might use more insulation in the roof, right? We could look into mini splits instead of a ducting system, right? We use skylights to let it, so that they're, the hallways and the stairwells are lit, the bathrooms lit with skylights. We use that sort of stuff, but the appliances, that stuff, energy efficient. It's a 90+ furnace. Like we, yeah, we don't have the budget for that unless somebody can you know move me that way or show me how to do that. It's too expensive for our nonprofit. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you bring up two. Oh, I'm sorry, Chanelle, go ahead.
No, I would also say just by living here, there's a lot of natural light just going in what Shelley said, going off of that. And then we have insulated the houses really well, so I don't have to use that much heat. And it's pretty cool in the summertime because I have been here when it's been hot. So that saves a lot on electricity too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that you bring up two kind of interesting things here. One, that you are using some kind of less talked about sustainability practices. So maximizing natural light, making sure that installation is done in a certain way so that you are not stressing the power grid or using more power. And I think you also bring up a really good point around cost and sustainability in the built environment and kind of how that can be a barrier. Jacqueline Carmichael has asked, are you considering branching into DC? And she would love to assist in the future. So I would be happy to send her contact information your way.
Yeah, DC seems very difficult to branch into. There are other neighborhoods in Baltimore that would really enjoy us to come there. I'm really trying to streamline this, right? And that's the thing too, in terms of, doing more houses or having more participants or having, different, Black Women Build Baltimore's across Baltimore. I don't know how you you really build community that way. Like I always said, like if there were like 50 people doing this, would you really get to know each other, right? So I think about working in small clusters of people, just like we work in clusters of housing. And it is up to, you know, the people, once the houses are done, to continue making that community. I sort of feel like I help provide that opportunity, right, to do that. But I don't, you know, it's not about how many people we get through the door in some ways. You know, it's like we don't say, well, we're going to start with 50 and then see if 40 do the program and then see if 30, you know, finish it and like that. I'm like, no, we start with 3 people. We start with 3 women, and we really try to ensure that they can finish, right? And now that there's more people than just me ensuring that, I think it will run more smoothly. People will get, you know, more, you know, I mean, I'm like building, and then I'm in a meeting, then I'm writing a grant, and then I'm getting materials. And now there's like, you know, a couple other people to help do that, so that we really still can focus, you know, on the task at hand, which is teaching skills and ensuring that our participants can buy the house. So branching out, jury's out. I don't know yet.
I want to touch on a point that you brought up kind of in the beginning of that, and ask Chanelle kind of how you are feeling about it in terms of building community. As a member of the community that is being built through the work of Black Women Build Baltimore, how do you feel in terms of your connection to the community that you live in, and how are you engaging with your community now that you are a homeowner there?
Well, the people that have finished the house on my block, we have like a kind of a meeting on Mondays or every month, at the end of the month. So we've had our own like community meetings, kind of trying to discuss like what we want to do on this block, and kind of also how we're going to get to know the people that live around us and engaging with them, and not just living in our bubble. And I definitely want to keep that in mind. And I'm just excited for other people, because I feel like if you're doing this program, you're not just trying to get a house. You kind of understand what the program's about, and you can, because especially since it is streamlined now, it's a little different. Like you're doing it because you want to build community. I feel like that's why the participants are doing it, and it's exciting because I'll get to know more people, and just different demographics of people, and a lot of people that are not a lot of people, but a few of the participants have been Baltimore natives, and I'm not. So it's just nice to be part of that, and to also see something grow.
That's wonderful. Angus Lee asks, how long does the program last from kind of your first day through closing if you are a participant buying a home?
The whole program, it lasted about, from starting the program, building the house, to actually purchasing the home, it was about 8 months for me. It was almost a year. It was, I would say that now that I feel like people in Baltimore are a little bit more familiar with the programs and the bank aspect, it should be a little bit easier. But explaining, like Shelley was saying, getting the right people to understand the mission of what we're trying to do, and not just a home, someone just kind of buying a house, and trying to walk them through that process is a little different, because trying to explain that to the bank. So, and also it was just a difficult process, just the whole buying the house process. But I definitely learned a lot, and I feel like if I'm helping, I can be helpful to the next participant, because I can talk about the struggles I went through, and hopefully they won't have to go through that same thing.
Absolutely. Shelley, Sharon Darrow has a couple of questions around kind of the workforce development place in this. Can we talk a little bit about kind of building skills in the trades and how participants have taken advantage of that opportunity? And Chanelle, if you would like to add your kind of on the ground experience with that, that would be great as well.
Yeah, so I envisioned this to be well, yeah, like workforce development, a training program, and if people wanted to get into the trades when they were done, there's an opportunity to do that. Almost all the women have stayed, not stayed, but they have not taken that path, right? And so when that has happened, we scaled back a little bit on some of the training, like all the electrical, the block infill, like a lot of that stuff. It's like it takes a really long time, and if people aren't interested in that, then that's not then I'm like, that's where we are shifting, right? So trying to figure out, what do people want to learn? I mean, like, we're building a house, right? So we're not going to be like, oh, what do you want to learn? And they, whatever, something that's not house based, right? So, but we're still working that out. I mean, I'm like, I want women that want to learn these skills. So they want to learn them, but not necessarily as a trade, right? And I'm a carpenter by trade. So I'm like, carpentry has allowed me to do so many things that I just don't know if I could have done. And it's not just building houses, but it's just like moving and starting a job, like hanging my shingle and saying, okay, I'm a carpenter, who needs work done, right? You have tools, you have skills. I mean, I was in the union for many years. And so that was sort of my mindset in the training and about the repetition, because in a union job, you're doing a lot of repetition, right? Large commercial jobs usually. And so that was my thinking when we were like, okay, we're going to do 3 houses in a row, right? So if we start, might be a little slow on the first house, and then you gain speed. And by the third one, you've done, X a bunch of times, so that you start to understand really how to do the thing. And that is how, and that's how I learned on the job. And so I sort of treated this like an on the job training. And that, I actually don't think that works, to be honest. So we're still doing we're doing everything paint in now. So behind the walls, we're not necessarily doing that, but paint in. So it's, I mean, it's painting, it's the kitchen, it's the floors, it's the doors, the trim, the siding, the windows, the tile, and setting fixtures, right? Toilet sinks, like that sort of stuff, right? So we sort of scaled back in some ways, but people still get a taste of all the tools, and all the trades. And I'm still hoping for someone to take me up on it.
Great. Chanelle, do you have anything to add kind of from a participant perspective?
For me, I definitely feel like I definitely need more practice. Like I can't say that I'm definitely ready to build a house again today, but I definitely would, there's things that I enjoyed about it. There's definitely things I enjoyed, and it has me, because I have the time, I've been thinking about just exploring different careers. But either way, like, I still am very much connected to the program, and if I'm not building a house, I see myself still connected to the program.
Great. Jacqueline Carmichael would like to know, do you fear gentrification or speculative purchasing over inflating home prices?
Do I fear gentrification? Sure, right? Like there's already gentrification happening, or there's already speculative buying, right?
Mhm.
But that's Baltimore, right? So that doesn't, in some ways, that's the ebb and flow of Baltimore real estate, and that's why there's so many houses also that are sitting unused, right? Because people want to make $5,000, or they want to make $100,000, or they want to make whatever they want to make, and they don't care about the neighborhood. And so I don't know exactly if this is happening. I know that we try to buy houses and they're more than we want to spend, and they weren't necessarily so when we first started. And it's mostly rental, right? So we're hoping to get more homeowners in. And I don't know. I mean, I worry about gentrification, but at the same time, I am also like, I want a grocery store. Does that come with gentrification? Do you know what I mean? Like, I want a coffee shop. Does that come with does it have to come with gentrification? Right? Like, we live in a food desert, or whatever the term is now, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if it was more mixed income, right? I'm not talking about gentrification, but I'm like, mixed income, that would be helpful, right? And so I would like to see, honestly, some of the amenities that people say come with gentrification. But yeah, I don't want people displaced, right? I don't want legacy residents displaced because they can't afford the taxes on their homes. And we know that Black and brown communities pay more like a percentage of taxes than other communities, and of course they get less services, right? So sure, gentrification, no. Displacement, no. But I'm not quite sure how individually how to stave that off, right? I mean, I would love if somebody plopped like 5 million on us and we could buy blocks, right? And keep it affordable. I mean, that would be fantastic, right? Or if we could stabilize all these properties around us, give us 2 million and see what we can do to stabilize all these properties so that they're not damaging our houses next door, right? Lean them. And I mean, there's so many creative things that could happen. And I don't know if Baltimore will be able to do it. They just got, a chunk of ARPA money. And then there's also money going into these I can't remember, it's not investment neighborhoods, but it's something, right? These neighborhoods that are, there's $100 million, I think, from those ARPA funds that will go into stabilization, demolition, affordable home ownership, small developers, that sort of stuff. And I think that's great. How do I get my hands on that so that we can do more houses? I'm not sure yet, but I keep emailing about it. So I don't know, that's my answer. I think there's a lot of ways to stave off gentrification, but I also want to see those organic gardens, and some people want a dog park. Do you know what I mean? Is that gentrification? So I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think there is a fine line between community development and gentrification, and who is the community being developed for is that question. So we have a question from Dick Williams, who says, you've recently been involved in advocating for zoning changes that would allow for cafes, etc., in West Baltimore neighborhoods where you were rehabbing. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that is going?
Right. So that's a personal project. That's not the nonprofit. So yeah, there are some buildings that have sat vacant and deteriorating for many, many years. And that's a development cluster that I'm working on. And we just put in the zoning appeal a couple days ago. So we're waiting for the hearing. But one will be a cafe with a grocery store in it. And there will be 3 live work artist space above it. And then on the next corner, there will be 10 full floor artist lofts, live workspace with a gallery. and a roof park for them to enjoy. And then kitty corner from that is will be a food hall, similar to Mount Vernon Marketplace, our house, and that ideally would have co-working space above it. So that we will see. We'll see. There's a lot of support for it. There's also, I think, some people that don't want to see that change in the neighborhood. They're used to a certain thing, and I'm trying to do something different with these buildings. I see all these buildings as potential that could be filled, that could be well used, that could create a third space, that's not work, that's not home, that people can congregate. You can bring your kids, you can eat and watch them, they could go study somewhere, right? You could show your art. So that's how I see things. And we'll see if other people see it. They're neighborhood commercial establishments, and this is an R8 zone. So if you guys understand that, this is a residential zone. And so changing these into neighborhood commercial spaces or neighborhood commercial establishments are, it's conditional use, and it's conditioned on the approval of the zoning board. So that's why you have to do an appeal. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's going swimmingly because I'm just powering through it, right? Like I'm going to do it until somebody tells me no, right? And even if somebody tells me no, I'm going to try to figure out how to do it, because we deserve to have these things. It can't just be over in Bolton Hill, or it can't be in Remington, and these other places. I'm like, no, Black people are not monolithic. I want organic half and half, right? And if I can get it at my grocery, then I'm going to put a grocery in where you can get organic half and half, and you can get some greens, and you can get some fruit, and you get vegetables, right? You don't get a sad little banana, for $1 that's like a week old, right? Like we want food. We want good food, fresh food, and we want a place to congregate and hang out. So I'm going to try to provide that, and we'll see. So thanks for that question. We'll see how it goes. Come to the hearing and support it.
Chanelle, I wanted to ask you a little bit. You mentioned a couple questions ago about adopting a lot. If you could talk about that experience a little bit, and your gardening, and how that is kind of further enhancing your community.
Well, I am attempting to adopt a lot here, but from what I found out is we live in a lot of small little neighborhoods. In each block, if you go 2 blocks, it's a different neighborhood, and if you go another block, it's a different neighborhood. And figuring out where exactly to put the best space. Where I used to live was a little bit different. There was only one community association, so navigating that has been a little bit difficult. But I have walked around, and I see that just up the street from here, that there was some raised beds that were started. So just going around more and just trying to talk to people, and because I feel like people have tried, I think that people have done urban gardening in this area, but just not really consistently. And I think that I would like to be consistent. I would like to be someone that does that, and for it to be walking distance would be great. And I would hope that eventually it wouldn't just be me. That was my goal in my past neighborhood. But I think that because there's already kind of some spaces that kind of are abandoned or not really well maintained, that I can just take it over easily. And if I talk to that person, or usually it's by a church that I'm talking about, just connecting with them, I feel like it would be easier than trying to go through the community association. And just from what Shelley was saying, and kind of what we want in the neighborhood, I think that I'm someone that's heavily invested in Baltimore. That's also why I did the program, because I see so much potential in Baltimore. I see so much potential in this area. Where we have a lot of landmarks. There's a lot of great things that happen in this neighborhood. So it's just amazing. I think that for me, I'm excited to be able to start to have a piece of land and be able to maintain it and have the things I need from the city. It seems like it's a little bit easier once I'm able to actually adopt a lot. So I'm excited about that.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's,
Oh, go ahead.
well, so the governor and then also one of the past mayors, they did this, it was Project Core, right? And I always like to say it cored central Baltimore out, central West Baltimore. It demolished a lot of buildings, and there's a lot of that, to call it green space. And I always say, well, green space is stewarded. These are vacant lots, and so, I mean, like Chanelle, I would love to see Chanelle be able to get a lot, because there's so many lots around here from houses that have are long since gone, right? And they're just being mowed sometimes, or they collect garbage, which we have to pick up. So yeah, I'm just saying, I would love for more people to be involved in the gardening aspect around here. And I'm really hoping that Chanelle gets some land on that corner and we just build an oasis with the community resource center that we'll be building and the garden there. Maybe Chanelle will take care of that garden.
Yeah.
Chanelle.
And I think that
Chanelle. Yeah.
yes, I think that just people just need to be educated and reminded that this is what we want. We deserve this.
Totally.
There's been a long time that we've been just put in the corner and
Yep.
just been given things. And I feel like I mean, I appreciate what Shelley's doing, because I feel like even the people that may not own houses in this neighborhood, they're aware of her and they appreciate what she's doing. And I feel like just outside of what we're doing, there's just people talking, and it seems like just a different just vibe here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And for those who are not familiar with Project Core, it is a demolition program that was started in Baltimore to demolish deteriorated homes. Many of those exist in West Baltimore, so I think we're maybe 5 or 6 years in. And due to that program, there are kind of vast areas of kind of open space where there used to be homes and buildings that have yet to be kind of developed. And so a lot of people have kind of looked at those areas as possibilities for urban farming and for greening of communities that lacked green space previously.
Yeah, I want to say, when I looked at this block and they were, there was one woman, she'd been living here since 1946 or 47, since she was 2, Miss Poinsettia. And she, she'd written letters to the city. I don't want my block demolished, right? I don't want my block demolished. And they're like, no one's living there. And I'm like, well, no, someone's living there, and I don't think people could imagine, they couldn't imagine anybody wanted to live there because they didn't want to live there, right? They couldn't imagine that anyone else would want to buy these houses because they didn't want to buy these houses. But I just don't think that's true. I think if you put into it something, right, and you build it back, and you build in a way that the people and the buildings are supporting each other, then you're rebuilding that community, and people will want to live there, because now the city comes through and they're like, wow, wow, we were going to knock these down. And and the thing is, the cost to stabilize these it's approximate to the cost to knock them down. And so, I mean, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? So the structure of many Baltimore homes and why it is so expensive to knock them down?
Well, I mean, I mean, these houses, I mean, so it's about 25, I mean, it depends, right? But it's like 25, 30 grand to knock these down individually, right? And because the city comes in, they hire contractors, so then it's like going to get super jacked up, or the city and state, because, you know, those numbers are always high. And then when you're knocking down a house next to another house, then they have to finish that other house, right? Because now you have an end of group, right? And now you have to put block up, or you have to stucco, you have to, you know, regrade the field, you got to get rid of all the rubble. And it's like 25, 30 grand a house. And we can stabilize houses for that. No interior framing, right? I mean, we can do it for interior framing too, but we can clean those out and do your, you know, pocket your floor joists, you know, fill them with mortar, put your subfloor on, and put a roof on it. And you could do that, you know, it's going to take longer than knocking it down, but you could do that for a block, right? And then it's preserved. And to me, I'm just like, man, if the city just put roofs on all these houses, because once water gets in, that's when it really starts to degrade, right? So a roof isn't even that much. It's not $30,000 unless somebody took your money. Joking. So it's like, so, you know, you can do that, and to keep water and organic material off these houses, that's all it takes. And I know that there are thousands of these houses, but I really feel like you could have crews going around doing this, right? You have crews going up, boarding up houses. You have crews, you know, mowing all this stuff, you know, mowing these fields and fields down. I just feel like there's some just creative ways, and it's not even that creative. Put a roof on it. That you could save large swaths of these houses. And I understand Baltimore's population has been dwindling. I get it. It's a city that's built for a lot more people. But, you know, we got to figure out how to keep people here. We have how many universities here, right? Like, where are these people going? Why are they not staying in Baltimore, right? How do we make it easier for people to move here and to stay here, right? I don't know, but I just think there's so much potential here. There's just so much potential. You can dream big here, you know?
Yeah.
And so, right? So
there's 200 neighborhoods, but there's only like Federal Hill, so there's only maybe a handful of places that people go out, and we can have that in every place.
I love that statement that Baltimore is a place where you can dream big. I definitely have found that in my time here, and is one of the things that is incredibly meaningful to me as a resident here. We have one question from Mark around garden space within the houses. Is that something that is included in the homes that you restore?
Like, is there a yard? Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there like a roof garden? No roof garden.
Yeah, just kind of, I guess, space to grow food, maybe a yard, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I moved from Seattle, and so like everybody like turns up their front yard and like turns it into a garden, you know. It's just like, it's, you know, everywhere. Everybody's gardening. Here, I call them postage stamp yards, because in this area of the city, they're quite small. Some of these have poured concrete on them, which we've chipped up and then repoured. Some of them don't have concrete. I think of these back spaces as more of like planters, right? Like you'd put planters in these and grow there. I hate to be a downer, but there's like a lot of rats. And yards, it's just rat tunnel central, right? And so you know, it's a little difficult. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say
So,
because of the natural lights, though, because of the natural lights, you can grow. I grow things like inside, and
Mm,
you can do things vertically.
totally.
It's just more vertical things that you have to grow than on the ground
Mm-hmm.
until you maintain the garbage.
absolutely, that's a great point, Chanelle. So this is our last question. So what does the future look like for both of you and for Black Women Build Baltimore?
I'm just going to keep building. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. We're actually going to run out of houses. We're looking for more houses in this area. So we're looking at different areas of Baltimore where people aren't arguing over, you know, over houses. Sometimes I like to say it's like kings and queens arguing over rubble. And so maybe we'll go somewhere where people aren't arguing over properties, and we can just work till our heart's content. Mhm.
So for me, I would love to be able to work in this area, to be able to walk on my door, and to be able to do something that I love to do. So it's either between urban gardening or cut flowers, because I see that a lot of it would be. I'm leaning more towards cut flowers because that's a market that's really not saturated in Baltimore,
Mhm.
and because of the rodent problem, I wouldn't have to worry about that. So that's a little bit more realistic for me at this moment. But just continuing to grow with the neighborhood. And finding a career in the space for myself in this neighborhood.
Mhm.
I love the way that you put that, growing with your neighborhood.
Mhm.
Um, Shelley, how can our participants get in contact with you if they'd like to learn more about Black Women Build Baltimore, or participate, donate, be a
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah. So our website is blackwomenbuild.org. And you can find just a ton of information about the work that we've done and the work that we're doing. If you're interested in the work that I'm doing on these artist lofts and food hall, etc., you can go to blackwomenbuild.co, because that's the general contractor, and that's my business, and that's what we're doing. So that's who's building out those spaces. But both of those have a lot of information and ways to get a hold of us. And yeah, we definitely, you know, need the support, look for the support, and love sharing the work that we're doing.
Great. Well, thank you, Shelley and Chanelle, for this incredible conversation. Thank you to our audience members for your thoughtful questions and really heartening comments that we will definitely share with Shelley and Chanelle. We encourage you to join us for our next program, which takes a look at the land reclamation movement through the work of Where Is My Land, whose mission is to return unfairly seized ancestral lands to communities of color. You can find more information about that at mbm.org. That virtual program takes place on May 18th, so we hope that all of you will join us. Finally, this program was being recorded, and an edited version will be posted on our website within 10 business days. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and especially Shelley and Chanelle for the work that you're doing, your commitment to Baltimore, and of course, joining us this evening.